cut, try to hit me in the gut, thinking that I won't react. You whisper in my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den. Bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying danger in defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 First round, fifth round, final round. Oh, yeah. First round, fifth round, final round. No, 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 no. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, oh,
I hope you're proud of yourself.
I kind of am. I saved the goddamn universe.
That's not the issue, Rick.
I would have been if I hadn't.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone, to In Time. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Downtime tonight. We have with us, as always, Commander Lance McMillan. Lance, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
I was disappointed to learn that you do not have with you right now your tinfoil hat. I have a sneaking suspicion you're going to need it today. And I'd mentioned this earlier. What I find most embarrassing is the number of times you've put that hat on and I didn't realize, and I just keep going. Now you see, here's where, if you just look at the camera, the right, and you're wearing this tinfoil hat with the ear, the antenna thing, and I was like, and then you see, and then this is where it gets really, and then I'm just like, and then it's like, you know, I'm getting the impression you're not taking me as seriously as I think you should be. Oh. Oh, well, so Yeah, there was uh, so much to talk about. Before we get started, and I know we're going to have some new people on this channel, and so one thing I'd like to do, and we just do this every now and then from time to time, is just remind people who you are so that they realize at least one person on this stream is competent. So could you please run down your CV so that anyone new here can know who you are?
Sure. My name's Lance McMillan. I'm a retired U.S. naval officer, 25 years in service. I had a specialty in amphibious operations and joint operational logistics. Graduate of the Naval War College and of the U.S. Staff and Command College. Before that, I was the son of a U.S. diplomat, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And I grew up mostly overseas in countries like Egypt, Greece, Turkey, Japan, India.
It actually crossed my mind. I didn't even ask you. There's a couple of things I'd like to talk about. One of the things that happened was we dropped a Nick of Time, and the Nick of Times are the much shorter videos. They're pre-recorded. They're edited. They're not conversational. They're me opining on a particular topic, and they're usually used so that, you know, to try to give someone a very good primer on something that's happening. So we did a Nick of Time on the Epstein files. This covers Epstein's entire life, including early life, which has genuinely some foreshadowing of what's going to come. He was at a prep school. He managed to somehow, without any qualifications, without having graduated college, without having a teaching certificate, anything like that, got into a prep school to teach math and physics, and was having difficulty keeping his hands off of the females and or paying them just to hang out with them, and going to parties, the high school parties with all the high school kids and getting drunk. So it was foreshadowed. Anyways.
Not at all inappropriate.
Yeah. No. So he was fired after 3 years for I forget what it was, but it's one of those code words, you know. It was like for poor performance, you know, failed a performance review. What happened was that one didn't trigger a notification. So nobody who normally watches our videos or who has the bell on would have gotten a notification. I think it's a good video. Again, it's short, but if you really want to understand what the Epstein videos are, and by the way, to some extent, nobody wants to understand. I don't want to understand because it is a topic that is cringeworthy just to think about it. And I think everybody feels discomfort just hearing or saying the name. I've been kind of avoiding the topic for that reason. I mean, we could have done this video a while ago. And I'm just like, yeah, the other channels are covering it. I was like, look, we have to cover it, especially when the stuff about Mossad came out, because I was just like, okay, one of the things I like to think we do well is break down information and try to get fact from fiction. And I was like, it's going to have to be done in this case, because if how it looks right now is a accurate reflection of reality, which is to say that Prince Charles did what he's accused of, that Trump did what he's been accused of, and is in depositions, including having sex with 13-year-old girls. I mean, this is on the record. Epstein worked with Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, and a bunch of other people from Israel, Saudi Arabia. He worked with the guys who literally sent Israeli guns to Saudi Arabia as part of the Iran-Contra scandal. From Israel. I mean, that was one of his early, and so, you know, that's worth understanding for very specific reasons. And if it's true that this is really and I say criminal conspiracy in the legal sense, he has engaged a large number of people. It is probably the single largest criminal conspiracy I can imagine or have ever heard of. It may be not by numbers. I mean, you take a look at the mafia, you take a look at the mob, but if you take a look at 1,500 names in that contact list, and I guarantee you they're not all guilty, probably not even half are guilty. You know, that was a contact list. That wasn't these are my clients' secret list, but I do think every one of his clients is in there. And that list has
I'd also suggest
yeah.
I'd also suggest that there were probably a considerable number of influential people who were invited to his parties, the island, what have you, who weren't engaged in actual illegal activities. You know, influential people like to be around other influential people. It's how they make their contacts for the business world. So the mere fact that you're on his Rolodex does not necessarily mean you're a pedophile.
Exactly. And that's tough because the instinct is to say, oh, ooh, and it's really, I saw somebody today was actually reviewing our, and Titan will remember the guy's name, and I should remember it, and I do know it. It's 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐡𝐨𝐥𝐚𝐬, who did a review, and he was very kind and gracious of the video, but he used the word "my brain cannon." He goes, my brain cannon just assumes everybody's guilty. I was just like, that's a great way to put it. He's like, then I think about it and I roll it back. He's like, but I have a brain cannon, and as soon as I hear that their name is he goes, I can't help it. It fires. David Copperfield is in the list, and he apparently gave a deposition. And his deposition, and I found interesting, we don't mention it in the short because we don't have time to go over every, and it wasn't, but one of the things that he had said, and apparently this is corroborated, he had been invited to one of these parties. He had no idea the kind of party it was. So imagine you're him showing up. There are scantily clad underage women everywhere offering services. People are going into rooms, and one of the number of Jane Does listed in the court that was going after Epstein before the trial started, the number of Jane Does was 170 or 80. So that's a lot. Only 4, the testimony was made public. So that's 2%. We know 2% of this. But one of them recounted Copperfield. And she said, yeah, he came up to me and said, do you know what it looks like is going on here? And I told him, yes. And he said, you should get out of here. And then he never came back. Now, we've got that. That's in a deposition, and he's in that, quote, black book. So, I mean, it's just to your point. Anyways, I can't even imagine, like, showing up to... Oh, boy. Anyway, so yeah, it's an uncomfortable topic. We deal with it as professionally and directly as possible so that people can understand exactly what Trump... And we include elements of one of the Jane Does who says at the age of 13 she was instructed to have intercourse with Trump. She describes it. We don't include... We include enough so that you know what she's talking about. What are your thoughts on all? I mean, just when you think Trump, and I think Trump was for this because he was just like, the Clintons are in the list, which they are, and they used Epstein's plane. They absolutely did. They used Epstein's plane for the Clinton Foundation. Oh my God. And this is what I mean, the biggest criminal, it's just in, so... what's your like hot take on all, or more deeper than hot? I mean, you've obviously had plenty of time to think about this as well. What do you think?
Yeah, my feeling is that I suspect a fair number of the people who went to parties had no idea what was going on, and once they became aware of it, either yeah, I'm done with this, not showing into it, or, as is, how to put this delicately, certain men are, particularly powerful men, are of the opinion, because they are influential, powerful, wealthy, whatever, that kind of thing is par for the course. It's one of the reasons you become rich, powerful, and influential. So to them, it's like, oh yeah, this is great. This guy's providing what I feel I'm entitled to. And those are the people who kept going back again and again. So, and I'm sure there's somewhere in between those two extremes, there's a group of people who felt distinctly uncomfortable about it, but kind of turned a blind eye to what was going on, and went because it was a place to meet and hobnob with the influential. So I think you need to look at this from the whole perspective or spectrum, rather, of people doing the kind of things that people in those circles do. And I think it's far too easy for people to just toss everybody into the same bucket of shit. Excuse my French.
Well, I mean, the good news is that Americans are nothing if not capable of high levels of nuance. Oh, come on, that was funny. Yeah, well, and that is sort of that was the other reason I was a little concerned about going forward with this. Alan Dershowitz is involved in multiple ways, which takes talent. I just thought it was interesting for a second when you were talking about they think, I almost imagine like not Nero, who was the sex deviant of Rome, but the idea that people get power and they're just like, well, I need to be. Nero? Maybe it was Nero. Yeah, I think it was Nero. Yeah. Okay. So just the idea that it's that level of insanity is not a trapping of power, but I don't know. I'm probably looking too deep into that. At any rate, yeah, that's another reason, is because you have to be very careful talking about this. Dershowitz, when I first learned Dershowitz was involved, I was like, okay, how was he involved? Now, he did his rant, which was really ill-advised, last week, or now I think the week before, because there is an accuser who's accused him. That accuser retracted after he countersued, retracted their claim, but people still are going to, as you would imagine, and still think he's guilty. So he got upset when Pam Bondi said, well, there's nothing to release at this point. He's like, I want them released because it would vindicate me, and it would show that I am not in these files, that I didn't do these things. He's still connected because he did defend. He was, as a defense attorney, he defended Epstein in his first trial in 2008, which is what I realized a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know, which was he's actually already been convicted. He had been convicted in 2008, but here was the bizarre thing about the conviction. Caligula, that was the one I was thinking of, actually. Not Nero, it was Caligula. I was thinking of Caligula.
Degrees of...
Yeah. Yeah. In 2005, the FBI got notified by a woman who said that Epstein had molested her daughter. By the time their investigation concluded and charges were being brought, they were up to, I think it was like 36 children that they had him on dead to rights. The FBI was like, he is going away forever, period, end of discussion. They had him. The FBI was supremely confident. Alan Dershowitz comes in to defend him and offers this deal where we don't go to trial. He gets 2 weeks, but it's minimum security with extended work release, so he can hop out and do his job, which, as it turns out, was finding more children. And he and any other potential, currently known and futurely discovered co-conspirators have blanket immunity from federal prosecution for any of those 36 girls. That deal was accepted by the district attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Not the district attorney, sorry, the state attorney for the Southern District of Florida.
The only
U.S. attorney.
obvious question that needs to be answered is, what did they get in return for that agreement?
What did the state get in return? Or
Yeah.
What? That's a really asked question.
You don't hand an accused party, which you have dead to rights with solid evidence, a silver platter gift like that unless you're getting something back. So the obvious question is, what was the other part of that deal?
The FBI purportedly was livid, and they had to shut down their case because he was now untouchable. Their case was, all the work they had done was worthless. None of the victims could be. The district attorney refused to tell the victims that he had pled this case out because he was so ashamed of it. That later overturned at least part of that deal because a judge said that it violated the victims' rights. It was such a good deal. And then the Justice Department did their own investigation into it, and he was asked why he gave it, and he said, "I was approached by people, and to the best of my knowledge, I haven't seen like a direct quote. The only things I've seen in quotes was that he was told that it was, quote, above his pay grade, that Epstein was, quote, an intelligence agent, and he said that he was forced to take the deal. But there's only a handful of people on the planet that can force him to take a deal. So what the hell?
Well, let's take a step back and go with what that statement was. He's an intelligence agent. What does that mean? And, you know, we talked about this before the show started. It's one thing to be in the employ of the FSB, CIA, Mossad, what have you. And it's another thing to have information which you then sell them, but you're collecting it on your own for your own purposes. So I think that distinction needs to be made, because if he's not actually employed by and working for one of those parties, if he's acting as his own agent per se, then he's really not an intelligence asset.
Well, and it's
which
interesting.
Then, in and of itself, brings other questions to the fore of, you know, okay, who was he selling the information to, if that's the case? And who are the people that were trying to make backdoor arrangements? And bear with me, I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just, this is a for instance. Let's assume he had been working for Mossad, and CIA or FBI or somebody gets wind of what's going on and then strikes a separate deal of, okay, you will tell us everything you give Mossad, and you will give that information to us. And in addition, you will provide certain falsified information to them, which we funnel through you.
Oh my God.
Who's he working for now? You know, he's a double agent, a triple agent. You know, and this is the thing about intelligence work, is it gets really muddy really quick as to who's working for who, and, you know, who's the primary employer, if you will.
You and I have agreed in the past that Trump is either wittingly or unwittingly, or directly or indirectly, sort of I don't think the word you used was asset, but he's
target of interest.
Well, and he's essentially working for the Russians. I mean, Putin has either compromat and, or, I mean, he owes, I think I calculated the total that over 7 loans that the Bank of Moscow co-signed for. Well, they co-signed 4 on Deutsche Bank. So Deutsche Bank would not do the loans unless Bank of Moscow backed it. Deutsche Bank doesn't even try to get the checks from him. All of the interest is being paid and all of the payments are being made by Bank of Moscow. So he's got the money, but he's not paying the interest and he's not paying back any of the principal. All that's being done by Bank of Moscow. So they funneled him $21 million. And since Deutsche Bank is the to the best of my understanding, the laundering bank du jour, it's phenomenally shady. So you take into the idea that they maybe have compromise on him, and so on and so forth. It would explain a number of his actions, certainly in the first term. I've been wondering for a very long time, and for me, the more I do this show, the longer I've been doing this, the more cynical I get. So I've been asking myself, oh, Neil's here. Yeah, okay. Titan, the Operation Canada is a go. From now on, any technical issues that we have on the show will be blamed on Neil 604. He is the nearest Canadian in proximity to myself at this point. So we're shifting, like any links that didn't get dropped, like screens that don't cutouts and sound, Neil's fault. Just de facto. Good to see you, Neil, by the way. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a while. It's good to see you. So, all right, where were we? So I have been stunned and heartbroken, genuinely heartbroken by the U.S.'s refusal to call a genocide a genocide. I understand that, in a court of law, sometimes like, that's not a hit, that's a punch, or that's a this, and, people can, this is genocide. They're starving people to death. And we're sitting there going like, what? Well, we don't, we didn't see anything. We're just sending them more weapons and so on. And the idea that this is my country that's doing this. America has never been perfect. You and I know that as well as anyone. We've had these discussions, but this is a step beyond. I guess when I took the deep dive into the Epstein case, and maybe it's me confirmation bias, but I said, holy shit, I found something that at least in my mind explains it. If he's blackmailing those people at the behest of Netanyahu, are you willing to opine on any possibility of that, or do you think that this is just business as usual for the U.S.?
I hesitate to say it's business as usual, but I am very mindful of the fact that historically we have engaged in some pretty questionable alliances and tactics to further our own interests. And to be clear, when I say further our own interests, not necessarily the national interest, but the interest of certainly powerful and influential business corporations. United Fruit, excuse me. Frog in my throat there.
Yeah, I'm learning that more and more too. The 2008 aside, you have one. It's called a wench, Neil. It's a wench, just like your Millennium Falcon is from. Do we want to get into that discussion? We can have that discussion, Neil, if you'd like. I gotta find new jokes. That's an old joke. I can't. What can I do? I don't have any new material. I gotta start showing up at Neil's and doing new material, getting new material on Neil, because he's just so much fun. He's actually anyone who knows him, he's a genuine pleasure to hang with. He and I met. We spent 3 days together at the Faithless Forum. And we did most of this shit together. Every time we went out for a smoke, I went out with him, and we just shoot the shit. He was a lot of fun to be with. At the time, I had a reputation for being with some unsavory characters. And Neil repeatedly repeatedly set the record straight and said, "Now Nick's been out of that for a while," and they were like, "Oh, okay, great," and I was just like, "You listen to Neil? Oh, damn!" It was with everybody. Anyways, good to see you, and we'll get a link to your show as soon as we can. So let's see. What was I going to say? Oh, I also wanted to do dunk on you, $20 for technical issues that come at exactly in time. Really, dunk? E2? E2? Dunk? Slava Ukraine, Horoyam Slava, thank you so much for that. Dunk on you also gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. And again, that's, we are completely viewer funded. So thank you very much for that. And we're going to start trying to do more shows. I actually want to start trying to do maybe one rundown every day. I was thinking of doing that without telling Xandring. Just to mess with them and be like, "Oh, we have a rundown in 5 minutes. You ready?" Just for fun. And you wonder why people don't want to work on the show. I don't know. But anyways, we'll see. So, but thank you very much for your continued support. We really, fireplace is burning for classified information. That's exactly. This is our. We don't have a shredder. We can't afford a shredder at in time, but we can afford wood and a match. So that's where what was it? I'd done that earlier. We've had breaking news. It turns out that the Epstein papers have all committed suicide. Pam Bondi reported finding them in her office. They had jumped headlong into the shredder. Their next of kin have all been notified. Every document was shredded. Yeah,
there's something I feel I need to bring this up because this is
please.
It's not the Epstein story or any of that. It's the thing that gnaws at my conscience right now. It's the question of why now. And why is the real push being focused on the MAGAs? I mean, let's face it, the Epstein story is pretty old, all things considered.
Yes.
And here we are, we're dredging it out of the sewer again. And up until now, all of the multitude of sexual indiscretions committed by the Orange God King are largely ignored by the MAGAs. It's like, oh yeah, he paid $100,000 to keep his porn star from talking about having sex with her. And yeah, he's been convicted of, sexual assault on several occasions. And and we keep going on with all that. And it never took hold. It never caught fire. And now all of a sudden, within the last few days, it's not even a full week, suddenly all the MAGAs are going bug shit over the fact that, the Epstein stuff. And I can't figure out why is it suddenly now that we're paying attention to all of this, or perhaps more importantly, who's behind pushing this in the right-wing media and social media to make it gain traction, and why? So I think what's going on is the people behind the scenes, the higher-ups in Heritage Foundation and that group, those folks, have decided that he has outlived his usefulness, and they want to flush him. And they know they can't get a 25th Amendment invocation to do it because everybody in the cabinet who would be required for that are people who owe their position solely to the fact that they are loyal to him. And the moment they make him go away, their political careers are over forever. I mean, getting elected to dog catcher is probably pushing the envelope for their political futures if that happens. So they need to have something well up from the bottom to force all the GOP legislators to say, okay, this time when we go for impeachment, it's going to stick. We're going to make him go away. You know, and that's what bothers me right now about what's going on, is what's the real behind the scenes, the man behind the curtain game that's going on that the rest of us are completely oblivious to.
All right, folks, I want everybody we're going to put a tinfoil hat in the End Time store, because I think at this point our audience needs to be able to purchase tinfoil hats. There we go. We need to have tinfoil hats across the board. When you said Heritage Foundation, somebody else said something that I would have laughed off, but for a conversation you and I had a while back. Somebody, Arthur Miller said, and I think Michelle Ferguson said, Putin. And at first I would have been like, Putin does not have that kind of reach. But when we had been talking about Project 2025, you had pointed out that there's actually a lot of connections between the Heritage Foundation and Russia. And I was not aware of that.
One of the many conservative think tanks that are playing the game here.
Yeah, so I will say this. Trump has stood up to Putin in ways that I found surprising enough that I've started to like walk back, because, and I've had friends like, Nick, you said you're sure they've got compromat on him. This isn't how somebody acts. When I was like, I got to admit you're right. I still think I'm right. I mean, I still think that they've got him. This isn't how you act. And I don't even think he's trying to like throw people off the scent. He's making Putin look bad in a number of cases, which Putin does not fucking tolerate.
Yeah.
And but what Putin does is Putin then kind of compliments Trump back, but it's not, and I'm just sitting there going like, it's like, oh, you're a good little doggy, and why don't you keep doing exactly what you're doing kind of way, in which it's like, oh shit, you don't want to,
Of all the free world leaders I know, he is one.
Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, so I'm curious if Putin has called up the contacts he's got and said, I can make it in everybody's best interest if he's gone, because Trump has, and the dementia has become obvious now.
Oh.
He is ill, and he is more ill than we're being told. And again, credit with Titan. I'm going to have a show. Titan told me so, because I fucking reference him enough. This isn't even going to be, it's about, in a couple of years, it's not even going to be my show. It's going to be the Titan show. In fact, I'm kind of concerned that Titan is Putin. The Titan's just like, oh, sure, Nick, it's your show. What would you like to call it? Oh, well, can I call it In Time? Oh, here we go. I mean, yeah, no, everything's good. Sorry, that was a joke. That was me playing a part in a play that I've been writing. Yeah. So, anyways, he's clearly showing signs of dementia. It's actually worse than it was with Biden. Except when Biden was really, really at the end. His dementia is worse than it was with Biden, and it's crystal clear. So it's already with MAGA. You're like, okay, hypocrite much, but that notwithstanding. The other thing is, and this is the one that Titan had noticed, was the swelling of the legs, or of the ankles, which is extreme. The sneakers with the shoelaces undone and all this other stuff. And I remember when my grandfather started doing that, and that was in the last years of his life.
The IV shunt in his hand that they camouflage with pancakes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I'm not, and again, Titan had suggested this, wouldn't it be ironic if his health problems are actually associated with long COVID? Yeah, that'd be something very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Poetic justice about
Yes.
that. That would be, yes. At any rate, they came out shortly after we started discussing this on In Time. The signs that he is actually really very ill. They came out with he's actually just got, I forget what was the condition, but it's the weakest form of condition that you can possibly have that would cause that kind of swelling in his legs. But he's bruising so much, it means he's on Halprin. And Halprin is one of those you got to be real careful with for any number of reasons. So they're he's running around eating whatever it is that he eats. He's at a risk for throwing a clot in both his legs and feet that could travel anywhere in the body. That's what the Halprin is for. That's why he's bruising. Oh, the bruise was from an aggressive handshake. Yes, I actually believe that. I believe it was from an aggressive handshake. However, I've shaken hands aggressively, and I think I was mispronounced, and I don't bruise that way. So I don't care. Yes, aggressive handshake. That's still a problem. I think I was I was thinking about Ken Halprin, who was he was a JFK guy, but at any rate, heparin. Is that correct? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Trump's health?
I've said this before on your show and some time ago. I think his health has been in decline, and significantly in decline, even in the last year of his previous tenure in the White House. And 4 years on from that have certainly done him no favors. So, yeah, I mean, it would not surprise me were he to, have some sort of heart attack or stroke or something that completely incapacitates him, and they're required to, bring in the VP to stand in for him. And that again will lead to another problem, which is that unlike Trump, Vance does not have the gravitas among the MAGAs to keep that cult going at the same level. People will begin to fade into the woodwork rather quickly, I would imagine. So they're going to keep, propping Weekend at Bernie's man up as long as they can. And then once something happens, they will immediately try to blame it on, libtard assassins or some idiotic thing like that, just because that's the way they work.
Well, weaponized woke, weaponized woke virus.
Wokeism.
Woke, exactly.
Died from a surfeit of DEI.
He had a DEI infection that metastasized. Oh, dear Lord. All right, I had another question I was going to ask. I forgot it, so let me quickly hit. So UTV and Ham gifted 1 membership. Thank you very much. Just a regular, always can be counted on to be at every show and gift a membership. Thank you so much, Sir Blonde Bombsheller gifted 10 memberships. And then abusing, I should say, her member message for 10 months. Quote, "The fireplace is for the goat. The fireplace is for classified information only. It is not for goat burning. It is not for it. It's classified documents."
Except at Yuletide.
No, especially not at Yuletide. That's the Yuletide goat I'm trying to save. I don't mind burning goats the rest of the time. I don't care. It's the Yuletide goat. Burn as many as you like. This gets me thinking. Part of me is like, okay, In Time is going to stay on standby, like for the next 2 weeks or however long it takes, because he is getting dementia. It looks like the Epstein thing is starting to get to him. So I'm waiting for him to just like decide he's just going to do an impromptu press conference, walk down the hall, burst into the what is it, press room, which we actually have a press corps in the White House now, which is a nice change. Just say, okay, the thing you have to understand about the Epstein thing is that when he handed me the underage children, I didn't know I was going to get caught. If I had known I was going to get caught, I wouldn't have done it. So I'm waiting for that. I do think he's gonna do something that crazy. If he stays long enough in office, he's got dementia. So it's either he gets taken out by something physically first, or he goes out and says something that dumb, because I think he's reaching the point where that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, he's surrounded by a swarm of handlers and always has some big figure from the administration standing next to him when he's giving his speeches, who's, I believe, there simply for the ability to immediately intervene if he starts doing something stupid like that. Push him aside and say, what the president means to say is.
It's not even going to be that. There was a comedian who mentioned this. I think it was talking about Biden, and noticed that Biden had handlers, and as soon as Biden would say something, it's just like, just jump on top of him and go, he's been hit, the president's been hit, just like, just change anything that changes the, and then get him off the stage. Chester, $2.
Speaking of which, have you seen the recently released set of still photographs from the assassination attempt during the campaign?
I have not.
I don't know if these are valid or, somebody, deep faked it or whatever, but it's really suspicious because, like, before the shooting happens, somebody starts moving across to get the press. And as soon as the shot's fired, he immediately literally pushes like 5 or 6 press members of the pool to the side where they can snap, pictures of what's going on. And it's just like obviously rehearsed and staged, if you believe what these photos are showing.
I would have a hard time believing. I'd like to see. I should look them up. I would have a hard time believing it because he looks genuinely, and the way when they're trying to move him, and he does that thing, you can tell for him it's just this act of to me, psychologically, it looks very genuine. But for one fact, which is narcissists, when faced with an existential threat, do have a tendency to just flee. They self-preservation is the only thing that exceeds ego in a true narcissist, usually. And if it's a slow threat, the ego will, because they truly think they can't be killed. I mean, a true narcissist thinks that they're invincible and vulnerable, the best on the planet. So it's not like, they can be facing a true existential threat and not notice it. But when they recognize an actual existential threat, oh my God, I could die, you will not find a greater coward than a narcissist, because there's nothing worse to them than the death of the ego. The death of 3,000 children is not as bad as the death of their own ego. And I don't mean that hyperbolically. I mean, that's what a narcissist is. So, I was a little suspicious that he didn't react that way, but he was so defiant and so stupid. That's the dumbest thing you could do, is be getting shot at and stand up and go, ah! I'm sitting there going, yeah, I believe he'd do that. It's such a dumb thing to do. I believe he would do it.
It's either you believe it's a dumb thing that he did, or it's almost like it was pre-briefed.
Yeah.
So,
do you think he's that good an actor?
All he has ever done in his adult life is act. Everything is performance art with him.
Yeah, but it's improv. It's not. I agree with you, but it's all improv. He's got instincts. He's got the ability to read the room. The idea that he could, and then you're going to stand up and do. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. That sounds. Excuse me. Did I just say that?
I think it's plausible either that he didn't know, but it was still a staged event, and they counted on him to do whatever it was he was going to do that would make him look brilliant, or he was in on it, and they kind of pre-briefed him on exactly what was going to happen and how it was going to happen, and all these things are going to happen to make, the perfect photo set for all the shots to show you as the great American with your fist in the air, defiant to the assassin with the American flag at half-mast behind you, and all this other crap.
We're going to have to talk about Machiavelli in a second. Jester, $2. They claim it's a hard issue, and yeah, he has none. Yeah, exactly. So that's how you know they're lying, is, a hard issue with Trump. Give me a fucking break. Listen, if they said like it was like somebody put cadmium in his toner, I'd believe that. If his toner was lead-based paint from the 70s, that also makes a lot of sense to me. But the hard issue is just, who's going to believe that? No, it looks like heart failure. This is what heart failure looks like. And heart failure can go on for 10 years and you can be okay. And if you get a heart transplant, you can go on even longer. But it looks like mid to late stage heart failure. I am not a doctor, but I've seen it before, and that's what it looks like to me. And
I've seen a number of health professionals who should know commenting on that, saying based on these indicators that we're seeing visually, it's probably this that he has. And that was one of the things that was being discussed.
Which is, by the way, what he is at most risk for. Given his lifestyle throughout his entire life, if you were going to say what's he most at risk to die of, it's going to be congenital heart failure. Or congenital, but actually it wouldn't be congenital. It would be, just heart failure. At any rate, if I recall, just because we've been talking about all this Machiavelli shit, I don't remember the history of Machiavelli too well, but what I sort of most recall about it was he was down on his luck. He had been an advisor. He had gotten kicked out and was no longer, so he decided to write this book. And he figured people would be so impressed with this book on how to control populations, how to control the masses, and which, again, he literally wrote the book on it. That's why his name is a verb. He wrote it, and he, of all people, misunderstood what the response was going to be, because everybody read the book and said, I don't want this guy anywhere near so he couldn't actually get hired to advise anybody, because all the kings and all were just like, no, yes, you're absolutely right about everything in this book, but you're fucking crazy. We don't want to have anything to do with you. Was that, if was there any truth to that? That's sort of how I remember Machiavelli playing out, was that he wrote the book and it ended his ability to ever work for anyone ever again. Not because he gave away the secrets, but because nobody would trust him.
Kind of, but he was a political advisor in Milan during the years that the Medicis were not in control of Milan. And during that period, I can't remember who the leader of Florence is. They commissioned him to write a book as kind of a textbook for educating the young successor of whoever's in power at the time. And then when the Medicis get back into power, he's shunted off to the side and forgotten. So it's similar to what you're saying, but not exactly.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad to. The apocryphal version that I have is fun for its irony, but I'd like to know if it's accurate or not. It sounds like it's not as accurate as it sounds. Sinister Porpoise, $5.12. I'm just gonna start saying two bytes. I just listened to Russell Brand and Terrence Howard be stupid at each other for 45 minutes. Please restore my IQ points. It's hard to say. I'm not sure I've ever heard anyone listen to both simultaneously. That's something we normally advise strongly against. I assume the damage can be permanent. Rest, relaxation, cold compress to the head, watch West Wing or anything by Aaron Sorkin, quite frankly, and or some other intelligence boosting, and hopefully you'll recover. I wish you luck and my condolences. That must have been very difficult. I don't know why you would do that to yourself, but you're very brave. CCs of Nova or of Cosmos. If you can also watch anything by Neil deGrasse Tyson. So go watch. And I think he did the sequel to Cosmos. So and you know, I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be fine. You've been through worse. All right. Well, I think we sort of covered all the biggies. Yeah, the Mossad thing, for the only reason. So I know that Epstein had a lot of contacts very high up in Israel, including Ehud Barak, who he headed a business venture that Epstein was I forget what he was a C-level in the venture, but it was with the Israeli Defense Forces. It contained aside from Ehud Barak, the CEO was, I think, the former guy in charge of Israeli defense. I forget what his official position was, but so I mean he's definitely got all these contacts. It's funny. I remember when you first came on and we talked about your dad, and circumstances were a little different then, so we were a little more circuitous than we tend to be now. But it really is. I've never seen Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I don't know if it's a good movie. I don't know. What movie would you recommend that you think I saw No Way Out, which I think tried to capture the idea that anybody could, but yeah, that was just a Hollywood BS movie. It was a vehicle for Kevin Costner. Are there any movies, or you tell what you recommended to me also, Torah to understand the what happened at Pearl Harbor. And I think that by modern standards, yes, it's a slow movie. It's going to happen. My kids think that, every movie I show them they're like, why is it so slow down? I was like, this is the fastest paced action thriller. Okay, fine. But it was really good. And I loved and you got to see so much, especially when you had mentioned this one, them prepping the Japanese, like covering what was the name of each ship, like the Arizona, they're just do. So, do you have a similar one that you think shows what goes on in terms of intelligence?
Yeah, there are so many different aspects of it. And if you start relying on Hollywood to provide you realistic portrayals, they can't, because everything is, it's Mission Impossible, 007 kind of crap, none of which is what really intelligence work is. A good one that I think gives you some idea, although it's very narrow and specific, I think it's on Netflix, called Operation Mincemeat, which is about the famous man who never was scenario, where the British were making a point of trying to feed false plans to the Germans about how they were going to invade Sicily. And so it's all about coming up with finding a dead body that had died under the right conditions, that it would look like it was somebody who crashed at sea and was washed ashore in Portugal or Spain. And, where can you release the body in the water so that it looks like it was likely to have drifted into the shore where it would be recovered, and all of that stuff. That is a good movie in terms of showing how the business of intelligence goes. I wish I could remember the name of it, but it's one that is about the code breaking at Bletchley Park, where they break the German Enigma machine.
Oh,
It's on that
the
ballot.
Turing, the Turing one.
Yeah.
The something game. So, Vladimir Putin says for things we should watch would be Hogan's Heroes. To which Greg Terry replies, "Thank you very much, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. Да, мы все знаем, чтобы ты можем разговаривать русский язык. Спасибо большое, Greg Terry. Очень приятно, by the way. Good to see you, Greg. Very glad you're here. Always love chatting with Greg. We've had a couple of chances to chat with each other in the background, which has been nice. Oh, the imitation game. That was it. Thank you. That's Sinister
Imitation,
Corpus, $2.
yes, that's it. Thank you.
That is it.
So, two others.
Spies like us. Spies like us.
No. Two others that are more modern, which are good. One is called Bridge of Spies.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite good because it's modeled on an actual case. And it's about a guy who actually isn't a spy, but is kind of like hired by the CIA, US government to arrange spy swaps during the Cold War. So that's a very good one. And I can't remember the name of it. It's actually a German show, so you have to be able to put up with subtitles. But it was a TV series about a East German intelligence agent who had been snuck into West Germany, joined the West German army, and was a junior officer assigned to NATO headquarters. And it shows his work and all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes on both sides. But most importantly, shows this guy in the true sense of what was going on. He's the one that alerted the Russians to the fact that the Able Archer exercise was not the U.S. preparing to invade Warsaw Pact.
Yeah, so he's one of I think, and then there's the guy who was on the sub during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So there's like a couple of people that we can identify that's just one person that just stopped World War III from happening. Yeah. Well, actually, we got Greg Terry here. I want to point out, so we'll drop a link to his channel, but we're as I said at the beginning of the stream, we're going to start to try doing rundowns, and we're going to just do a test run of this. I think probably starting next week, do a rundown, probably 9 p.m. every night. One of the concerns, a rundown is supposed to be about 45 minutes, and I've never been known to be able to cut myself down to 45 minutes. I mean, it's going to be, Titan will be here, he'll have a taser. If he starts to see me jump, it's because I've gone past my cue. But we also did talk about, I would love to work with Greg, and he had suggested a couple of things, so I'm hoping once his studio gets set together, we can do something, because we do have a lot of overlap, and we don't really usually work with too many channels, because we want to make sure that it's with somebody who takes getting accuracy seriously, and Greg does. So it's always I'm hoping you're going to see more of him, and that we're going to get to hang out with him more. So, but good to see you, Greg. And then I did have one last thing I was going to cover, but I wanted to I think I did cut off. So we were talking about spies and how to really start to try to understand the complexity, and that's the other thing. The problem is people just sort of go to it. Yeah, they have such a binary view. If somebody's just okay, if they're working for X, Y, or Z government, then that's it. They haven't been turned. They haven't been this or that, and they usually sort of everybody's playing everybody on some level is sort of what my understanding of it is, and it makes it very hard. It takes, I think, to do well a genuinely brilliant mind to be able to sort of maneuver the intricacies of what human beings, how they operate. Oh, Kidnot can just join. Thank you, sir. And once again, that was very kind. You did a very kind review of our show. So of that that nick of time. We have a number of programs, but the nick of time ones are the ones where we just sit there and just try to give a précis on a particular topic and let people go out and see that, and we do the best we can with that. So thank you. And it was nice. My first time on your channel, Titan had pointed you out. So thank you, sir. So we're going to cover one more thing before we go. There is a new lawsuit. Oh, dear Lord. Yes, I shuddered when I saw this. Trump versus Dow Jones and Company, Inc. et al. So he is suing the Dow Jones. It's been filed today. Plaintiff Donald Trump, defendant Dow Jones Company, and defendant is also News Corp. So he's suing, I think, for defamation. He's Wall Street Journal. Do you want to know who is representing Donald Trump in this case?
Lay it on me, Big Daddy.
Nobody. He's going pro se. He's going to pro se sue News Corp and Dow Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be streaming that the entire time. You don't have to go to Adult Swim, Comedy Central. You don't need that. We will have for you whatever he's going to be. Your Honor, I object. It's like, you were the one speaking. You object to what you just said? Yes, sir. It's going to, oh my God. So Donald Trump represented by Donald J. Trump pro se. Now, he can add an attorney later, but to the best of my knowledge, this is the first time he's ever actually filed pro se. And whoever filed this for him, if they were planning on representing him, would have put the name on there because they want to start getting all of the information as quickly as possible. If he's going pro se, that just screws up. And everybody in court hates people who go pro se. Because they fuck up everything. And nobody who would actually represent him would let him start pro se because it just gives a bad taste in the clerk's mouth, the court's mouth, and nobody wants it even if you switch over. They're just like, they hate it. So I don't know if he actually intends to go through with that or not, but we will be covering that live. That was, I mean... Listen, we covered January 6th committee hearings live. If Donald Trump wants to get into a court and argue with attorneys for News Corp, I'm actually looking for. I'm going to be. Oh my God, that was a gift.
I think he's convinced he can pull it off because he's won so many other court cases before by simply dragging the proceedings on so long that the other side loses interest and just gives in.
Well, and he's had so much success with judges that a few he's intimidated. He actually hasn't intimidated that many, which I'm glad to see, and I was a little surprised by. The lower echelons of the judicial branch has a backbone. But the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't, and every time he gets his ass handed to him by a judge in Boston, Florida, or Texas, he's had judges in Texas kick his ass. So significantly be like, you cannot even be thinking about doing the thing you've just did 6 times. And then the Supreme Court says, nah, it's all good. So maybe he thinks that gives him superpowers in court. I don't know. Anyways, that's it. I wanted to, I'm going to quickly check the live chat before we go, but I thought that would, I saw that. I could not stop just rolling in laughter. I really hope he does that. So Pyro, Kurt became a member. Thank you, sir, very much for that. And yeah, I think we are up to date. Any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I thought of one other really good spy movie. It's somewhat sensationalized, but the basic facts in it are true. It's an old PBS series called Riley Ace of Spies. And that's a good one to watch if you watch it with like one from the World War II era and one from the modern era, because it shows you kind of a progression of how intelligence work has evolved over time and the different tact it tends to take nowadays as opposed to back then. So, yeah.
And we did, so we're going to, and we'll get this sorted out on the Discord. We do now have, I agree with Porpoise, I think this is a good idea. We now have an official Snark correspondent of Snark. It is the Sinister Porpoise. Sinister Porpoise is now in Time's official correspondent of Snark. Congratulations. Thank you very much for that. We're delighted to have you on board, and we look forward to many snarky comments in the future.
Right arm. Powder to the people.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Another great show. Thank you for accommodating me and moving it back a day. And look forward to seeing you hopefully Thursday next week.
Stranger things have happened.
Yep. And we'll see. I'm not. Join us on the Discord, guys, because first of all, some of the videos, again, like the last Nick of Time, the one on the Epstein case, did not get notifications. Did not go out. So, if it's something where you wanted to see that Nick of Time, you didn't get notified on it. You'd either have to know by our Discord or any other means. And also, we are going to be, we're following a couple of stories. I'm going to stay on it. Trump's health among them. And before we go to breaking, it always ends up on the Discord first, and that's where we sort it. And as a community, go through it and figure out how we are going to tackle breaking news and these stories. And that's also how we beat the mainstream media. And if you want to see how we do it, join us on the Discord. I think you'll be impressed. I'm impressed, and it's not because it's my work, but I'm impressed by the work of those of you who contribute so much and enough that we'll hopefully be able to do a show a day. So thank you guys again. Thank you, Commander. Thank you to the mods and to everyone who has been so supportive. Thank you to our new correspondent of Snark, and I will see you all Tuesday for In Time with 𝐒𝐸𝐿𝐴𝐸𝐿, or actually maybe Monday for a rundown with 𝐒𝐸𝐿𝐴𝐸𝐿. Don't tell 𝐒𝐸𝐿𝐴𝐸𝐿. I want it to be a surprise. And we will see you all later. Have a good night, all. Oh, and I forgot it. Yeah, there's always something. If Duncan says anything, no. All right. Good night, all. Thank you.